So we will need to find the exact value of this trigonometric function, which now is in radian. So the first step, we will change the value into degree first so we can solve for it. You need to multiply this value by 180 degree over pi. This is because we know that a straight angle is equal to 180 degree, which is also equal to pi for unit circle. So this means that when we multiply it with this value, it still didn't change anything because this 180 degrees is equal to pi radian. So we put another pi in the denominator. So when we multiply it like this, the pi will be cancelled and the radians will be cancelled. So it will leave us with 7 over 4 times 180 degrees, which 180 divided by 4 is equal to 45, and 45 multiplied by 7 is equal to 315. So 7 pi over 4 radian is equal to 315 degrees. So we just need to find a sine of 315 degrees. And to find a sine of 315 degree, since we know that 315 degree will be in quadrant 4, so we will first subtract 360 by 315 so that we can get the reference angle, which in this case is 45 degree. We will just go ahead and find the sine of 45 degree, and when based on the basic triangle 45, 45, 90, the length of the triangle will be 1, 1 and root 2. And so the formula for sine is opposite over hypotenuse, so it will be 1 over root 2. But we don't want the denominator to be in a root, right? So we will multiply it all by root 2 and we will get root 2 over 2. This 315 degree angle is in quadrant 4 and it's a sine, and since sine is like y and is in quadrant 4, so it will be negative. So the answer of the first question is negative root 2 over 2. The second question is to prove identity, and I will choose to do the left side first. Tan is equal to sine over cos, so I will replace the place where it's tan with sine over cos. The cos will be flipped up since they are plus, so we will need to make the denominator to be the same so that we can plus the numerators, and in this case we need to multiply cos to cos and sine to sine so we can get the same denominator. We do this because the identity says that the cosine of x squared plus sine of x squared is equal to 1. So this piece will be cancelled out and we will get 1 over sine times cos. And in this question we will need to change the right side a little bit. So replace sec with 1 over cos and replace cosec with 1 over sine. Since they are multiplied with each other, so it will be 1 over sine times cos. After simplifying each side by using the identity, we know that they are equivalent. Next question, solve the equation within a constraint domain of 0 to 2 pi, and this pi shows that we will be doing it in terms of radian. These two things is multiplying each other and it's being equal to 0, so we can write this value here equal to 0 because when the product is 0, either the value a or b is 0 or both is 0. After we put it equal to 0, we will just solve for it normally, so subtract 1 from both sides and then we'll get cot equal negative 1, and since cot is equal to 1 over tan, so we will replace it so that we can solve for it. Then we flip tan up and also negative 1 up, and negative 1 over 1, so it's still negative 1. And since we already know that tan of 45 is equal to 1, then we will find which quadrant it will be in, and so we can see that if a tan is negative, it's going to be quadrant 4 and 2. Okay, so to find the answer for quadrant 2, so it's like 45 on quadrant 2, and so we want to know this angle, so we will need to subtract 180 from 45. And the same goes with quadrant 4, so 45 degree here, and then it's like in quadrant 4, and the total is like 360, so we will want to know this angle. We will need to subtract 360 by 45 degree. Then we will get 135 and 315 degree, right? But since it's need to be in radians, so we will be converting them into radian by multiply pi over 180 degree, because the degree will be cancelled out and then changing them into radian. After cancelled, we will get 3 pi over 4 radian. And for quadrant 4, which is 315 degree, cancelled, then we will get 7 pi over 4 radian. Okay, so next let's do the cosec minus 1 over 2 equal to 0 here. And so negative 1 over 2 go to the other side. Then cosec equal to 1 over sine, so replace it. And so it will give us 1 over sine equal to 1 over 2. And so we want sine to be at the numerator, so we will flip everything up and get sine equal to 2. But for this one, arc sine of 2 is no solution, like undefined, because like the range of sine is just from negative 1 to 1, so the domain of arc sine of 2 will also need to be within this range, so anything outside like higher or lower than this is undefined. So the answer for this question is 3 pi over 4 radian and 7 pi over 4 radian. Okay, so for the next question, for the formula that y equal a tangent of kx plus b, we will identify the amplitudes first, which in this case is 1, and the axis of the curve, which is 1 equal -1, and the k thingy there is like we're going to affect the period. So periods that normally like for tangent is like 180 degree, right? So it's going to be 180 degree divided by 4. So normally like the point of tangent will be 0, 45, 90, 135 and 180 degree, right? But since like the k affects the period, so it's all going to be divided by 4. So we will put the degree that like getting divided by 4 already instead of like the 45, 90, 135 one that we will usually do. And since the range is like -45 to 45, so we will just like write within this range. Okay, so to graph, we will draw these constructions line here for us so that we can graph easier. So y equal -1 here, like axis of the curve. And since the curve will go through point A plus B or asymptote plus axis of the curve, B and then B minus A. And the asymptote of tangent is 90 and 270, which now is at -22.5 and 22.5. And since we know that the 0 degree of tangent when graph, like 0 degree will be at the axis of the curve, and 11.25 will be at B plus A, and negative 11.25 will be at B minus A. This is because like the tangent is not like continuous graph like of sine or cos, so it will basically repeat itself like when there's a period. Like since in this case the period that originally is 180 is now divided by 4 and it's now is at 45. And connect the dot and draw the curve. And 33.75 will be at B minus A, then 45 will be at B, axis of the curve. And then the same, -45 will be at axis of the curve, and -33.75 will be at B plus A. And we have to make sure that like the curve is not touching the asymptote, because the asymptote is like the line that the graph is like go very close to but like never touch. Next question will be in radian. So first identify axis of the curve and amplitude. And then we will draw a line at axis of the curve so that it will be easier for us when we graph. And in this case, it is y equal to the radian. So 90 degrees is equal to pi over 2, because like we know that pi radian is equal to 180 degree, right? And then 270 degree is equal to 3 pi over 2, because when we multiply 270 degree by pi over 180 degree, it will give us 3 pi over 2. And pi times 2 is 2 pi. And then the same with negative side, we just like add negative. Okay, so now we will stop at just this because the range is -pi to 2 pi. We will just graph normally and like we will do the absolute value like later. Okay, next we will plot the min and max. So the we will took the amplitude, which is like the distance from the axis of the curve to min and max. Count up 5 for max and count down from the axis of the curve 5 to get the minimum. We can also calculate by use the value of a and b. So max will be b plus a, b minus a for min. Okay, so let's graph. To graph, we will graph without absolute value first, which means that we just need to graph like normally. Okay, so let's plot the points. So for cosine graph, 0 degree will be at the minimum point, pi over 2 at axis of the curve, pi at the minimum point, 3 pi over 2 at axis of the curve, then maximum at 2 pi. And then we just like reflect it to the negative side. And then connect the dot. And so we will get the graph of y equal 5 cos x plus 2 like without absolute. Okay, and to graph absolute, we will flip like everything that is less than 0 up to be positive. Okay, from this graph, the things that is less than 0 is like to -3, right? And its distance is 3, so we just flip up like to the 3 in the positive. So we're basically just like change from negative to positive. So from -3, it will be +3. And since for the absolute, it just needs to be like not negative, so we will just like draw it, connect to the graph that is like still is positive, so like as you can see there, and I will delete the things that is negative there out. Yeah, and so we will get the graph that is like already in the absolute. Yeah, okay, and this is the graph y equal absolute of 5 cos x plus 2. Thank you for watching.